Okay, and with that, Marjorie, you're up.
I told you there'd be a voice from above. So again, welcome. We are so glad you're here. Thank you for giving your time this evening to learn more about where we are in the process for Hercules Inc. and Superfund. We want you to know that we hear your concerns and we're here with you along this process. The last we met, we were discussing the listing of Hercules Inc. to the National Priorities List. We've received many comments, and before EPA made the decision to list Hercules Inc. to the National Priorities List, comments were received and addressed. And if you're interested in seeing that document, it's online on our website, on the site website. And that website is given on the last slide of this presentation. I did want to say that placing the site on the NPL now means that Hercules Inc. is a Superfund site. Superfund is a common term for CERCLA, which stands for the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act. And that is a mouthful. So it's abbreviated as CERCLA, but we commonly call it Superfund. We're now at the start. Oh, and let me say, now that it is a Superfund site, we have the authority to do the cleanup. So we're now at the start of investigations, and that's good news. So that's why we're here. We want to talk about where we are and what you can expect. For introductions, I right now am just going to introduce and ask for people from various agencies when I call your agency, if you will raise your hand, and then I will go over names and titles at the end, because to be honest, there's a bunch of people who are here in support of tonight's program. So again, I will ask for you to raise your hand when I call your agency or organization, but I'll individually introduce you later. With that said, my name is Marjorie Thomas. I'm the Community Involvement Coordinator from Region 4 with EPA. I guess let me introduce our site team, because you might want to know who these people are, right, that you're looking at. So we have Kevin Kaporik, Deidre Lloyd, Ben Benkowski, and Graham Burkhalter. I want to give a special thanks to the city of Hattiesburg. Miss Ann Jones, thank you so much for your support and for helping us. I also want to give a shout out to Miss Victoria Johnson, who has helped with this amazing facility. If you are with EPA and I haven't introduced you, will you raise your hand? Thank you. If you're with ATSDR, the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, there's another mouthful. Will you raise your hand? The Mississippi Department of Health. Raise them high. MDEQ, the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. Thank y'all for being here. Well, thank everybody for being here. And then Hercules Inc. and Arcadis. Thank y'all. So you see, we have a wide gamut of folks here. Again, we're all in support of helping clean up as best we should. All right. So the presentation tonight is going to be given by myself and Deidre Lloyd, the Remedial Project Manager. We're going to spend some time going through a PowerPoint presentation that we have. Then we'll open it up for questions and answers. And then we will end with an open house. The open house is informal, and there are various subject matter experts that will be at those tables. And that's where you can really ask one-on-one, interact one-on-one with subject matter experts. All right, so I mentioned that Hercules Inc. is now a Superfund site. What are the goals? So number one, human health and the environment, and we do that by cleaning up contaminated sites. Provide for community involvement. That happens because you have a voice in the cleanup process. And then direct responsible parties to pay for cleanup. In Superfund, polluters pay. If the potentially responsible party, what we call the PRP, if the PRP doesn't do what they're supposed to do with the cleanup, EPA has the authority to come in and do the cleanup and then enforce payment. The last goal is to provide for reuse and redevelopment. That's what we want to happen. We want to be able to put these contaminated sites or put these unproductive sites back into productive use again. EPA does consider reuse opportunities throughout the Superfund process. So it just doesn't have to happen at the very last stage. The things we're going to talk about tonight, we'll talk about the history of Hercules Inc., steps in the Superfund process, who pays, and then community involvement. And again, I want to say that we can go further in depth. If you're dying to know more, we will have subject matter experts during the open house that you can interact one-on-one with. I'm now going to turn it over to Deidre. Again, she is the remedial project manager for EPA for this site.
Hi, as Marjorie said, we're all glad you're here. Thank you for coming and spending the night with us. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the history of the Hercules site. Back in 1923 is when the site opened, and then the 1996 picture is kind of an interim picture, so you can see it's changed over time. And then this is a present day representation of the site. And some of the areas that we are concerned about, so the Hercules site is about 200 acres, maybe a touch over. And it's been in operation for 80 years. It operated from 1923 to 2008. And as Marjorie mentioned, they've been identified as a responsible party. I know there was some concern about that at the last meeting, that the community might have to pay, so that's not the case. And so we work together, EPA and MDEQ, we work together to provide oversight for the responsible party, who is Hercules. All right, now some of the things that they did on site, do you see the blue arrow? I don't have a laser, but the blue arrow right there, it's a wastewater treatment plant. And in that same area is the impoundment basin. And then there's a large tank also in that same area. It's 5 million gallons. Right, so, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the areas. So the polypel area is denoted by the orange arrow, and that's where they made insecticides and pesticides. And then the wastewater treatment plant, I just mentioned the blue arrow, and that's where all the water from the on-site operations went to be treated. And when they treated the wastewater, there was sludge that was left over. And all that means is all the solids left over from all the wastewater. And so those, the sludge was put in the sludge pits. After they treated it, then they would put it in the sludge pits. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So after it left the wastewater treatment plant, it would go to the impoundment basin, and then they'd continue to treat the water. Some of it would settle out, and then some of it went into a skimmer, and they'd skim that off and collect that and dispose of it. And after the impoundment basin, then it went into the E10 tank. That's a 5 million gallon tank, and they would store it there. There were a couple other tanks on site too. So the sludge pits, they refer to those as the back 40, and it's a 6 or 7 acre area. It has a variety of waste in it, processes, boiler ash, old equipment, machinery. It's before the 80s when CERCLA was enacted. So lots of, it's non-hazardous waste that's disposed of in the industrial pit. So the sludge pits are shallow, open pits. They're not lined at the bottom, and they're open on the surface. And they're the purple arrow. And this area consists of 5 cells. They put it in one cell first, and then the second cell, and then the third cell, and then the fourth cell, and then the fifth cell. And they range in thickness from 5 to 10 feet, and they were utilized throughout site operations. They have a total volume of about 35,000 cubic yards. And then the last place is the landfill denoted by the pink arrow. And that is where they put everything that wasn't hazardous. So, and that's about 3.5 acres, and it's covered by native soil, and there's no liner in the bottom of that. Next slide. Oh, I have it. All right, and then these are just some before and after pictures, and I wanted to show you what it looked like before. So in 2009, after the plant stopped operations, they did a lot of demolition, took some things down. And so if you look at the E10 tank, that's the 5 million gallon tank that I was talking about. And so that's it before, and then that's it after. So it's a very large tank. And so they take that apart, and then they dispose of that, depending, they'll test it and sample it, and then dispose of it appropriately. And you can see the impoundment basin, and that's a before and after picture. You see the large water, and so that's where they would treat the water. They'd aerate it, bubbles would go up, and then that would make it go to the skimmer. And then there's after, they filled in the impoundment basement, and that's what it looks like today. And there's a top of the former industrial landfill, and that's just capped by native soil. All right, these are some of the products and processes that Hercules made. They were in operation for over 80 years, and these products were produced and manufactured throughout site operations. So what they would do is they took wood stumps and pine trees on site, they grinded, shredded, distilled, and that just means that they boiled them and processed them to develop all these different products. So they paint thinners, plastics, turpentine, paint, adhesives, chemicals used in textiles. That's the material, the threads. Pesticides and insecticides, adhesives, so they made glue. Print ink, they made that from the rosin, synthetic rubber, varnishes, and acetone. And some of these are what came from the processes. This is some of the on-site contamination. So you've got volatile organic compounds, trichloroethene, carbon tetrachloride, benzene, toluene, and 1,4-dioxane. So volatile organic compounds, they're volatile. That means they just volatilize in the air at room temperature. And you smell this every day whenever you pump your gas. You can smell that smell. That's the volatiles from the gas going into the air. Then semi-volatiles, they don't volatilize as easily because they have a higher temperature. Like I said, gasoline volatilizes at room temperature. So they don't volatilize as easy. And those are the biphenyls and PAHs. And then the insecticide they made was called Torac, and the pesticides were toxaphene and Delnav. And the metals, arsenic, chromium, and mercury. And the metals, they absorb to the soil, and so that they act a little differently. So you have to sometimes do special things to sample them. All right, and this, I'm sure you've seen this picture before. This is about the Superfund process. When EPA determines that a site requires a remedial action, that's just a fancy way to say when it requires a cleanup, that there are several steps that EPA has to follow. And for the type of cleanup required and necessary steps, so we can return the site to beneficial use. And as Marjorie noted, we're going to look at reuse throughout the whole circular process on this site to see, what opportunities, and we'll work with Hercules and the state and identify those. That was really important to everyone, that we identify any kind of beneficial reuse. So right now we're in the remedial investigation phase and at the feasibility, and that's RIFS. And since the site is listed, that enables it to have community funds for community involvement. And we really would like for y'all to be involved in the site and ask questions and let us know, how we can help. Okay, so now we are listed on the NPL. And so what's our next step? And as I mentioned, this remedial investigation, the feasibility study. And so the remedial investigation, there's already been a lot of work done on the site from when they were previously in another program. So there's been a lot of work done on the site. So what we have to do now is just identify the data gaps. And that's just a fancy way of saying there may be something here, maybe a well's not deep enough. So we're going to look into that, and see if we need to sample something else. see if we need to sample out. So that's what we're going to look at. And that's what we do is we figure out what contaminants are there, and then we figure out where they're located. And so those are the those would be the chemicals. And then in the feasibility study, we identify and evaluate the cleanup options. After we have the site fully delineated, and all that means is where the contamination is horizontally and vertically. And then when you know that, then your remedial investigation is done, and then you can look into the best way to clean it up based on what chemicals are there and based on where it is. If it's a tight clay or if it's a sand, there's different ways to clean it up. And so we choose the option that's the best and fastest. All right. And so I'm going to talk about the remedial investigation and feasibility study. This is when we collect samples. However, there is something I want y'all to understand. This is just confined to the site. When we're going to sample this, we may have to branch out and sample other things, but your water, you're on the city of Hattiesburg water. And so your water is not impacted because you're on the city's water. And that's the water that comes into your homes and everything else. So you're on the city of Hattiesburg water. And they have to maintain certain levels of, they test it monthly, and that's all per the Clean Water Act. So you have to have any wastewater treatment plant has to be tested. And so your water coming into your home from the city of Hattiesburg is fine. Right. So throughout the remedial investigation and feasibility study, the top 3 slides are soil sampling. And like I said, there's different ones. That top one, they're taking some surface soils and testing those. A lot of times we'll test we'll look at that and look at the first 2 inches. And so then we send the samples off to the lab. The lab analyzes them and they tell us what chemicals are in the soil. And then we have it, gridded out. We know where that soil came from. And we'll take several of those samples. And the 2 pictures on the right, that's a track rig. And so it can run on tracks, and it's small, so we can get it in little tight places. And that's how we get deeper soils. And so that's how we figured out vertically what's contaminated vertically. And they can go down as far as the contamination is. And then the bottom pictures, are water sampling. And so that's a well that you can see that little hole in the ground. That's a well. And so we're sampling that. And then they're putting them in the bottles, and they're all different size bottles depending on what you're collecting and what you're looking for. And so we put those in the bottles. And so all the soil samples and the water samples go to the lab, and then they analyze it and tell us what chemicals are in the soil and what chemicals are in the water. And some of the things we sample for, groundwater. I know y'all have heard that. And all that is just through groundwater. It's in an aquifer, and that's just a fancy name for it's in a layer of either soil or rock, and that bears water. Like clay is really tight, and so it usually is not an aquifer. So some of the bodies of water that we sample, there's surface water bodies on the site. There's Greens Creek, and it empties to the Bowie River. And anything on site will sample. It includes rivers, creeks, lakes, ponds, any drainage area, any ditches. So anything where we think contamination has been, we'll test there. So it's called bias sampling. We're looking for anything that, any process or waste or anything like that. And then, so that's what we do. We go out there and sample and figure out where everything is so we can clean it up. And right now we're in the remedial investigation phase. So Hercules submitted a report. It's about 7,000 pages. I think it's 5.5 times as big as War and Peace. So we're looking at that report now, and we're going to have a meeting next Tuesday with Hercules and MDEQ to discuss some of the next steps that we're going to do when we're going to go out in the field and what we're going to sample and where we're going to sample. So it is moving. All right. All right, so after we've done the remedial investigation, and we've looked at some risk assessment data based on the remedial investigation, then we need to select a remedy. And that's where the feasibility study comes in. That's when you've got everything delineated, and then you look and see what's your next step. And those will be the cleanup options. And this is when we come, and let me preface this with, anytime you have questions, our contact information is going to be in the last slide. So feel free to call me. And I mean, I truly mean that. Just if you have questions, concerns, or anything, call me. I'm happy to talk with you and tell you where we are and all that. But so when we select a remedy, it's after the remedial investigation is complete. The risk assessment is considered part of the remedial investigation. And so we figure out the cleanup options, which technology we're going to use. One's better for cleaning up petroleum, another's better for volatile organic compounds. And so then we notify the community in public, and we'll put it on our website. And if you're on our mailing list, that's another thing. If you want to be on our mailing list, let us know if you don't have access to a computer, and we can mail. So we have something called a proposed plan, and that's EPA chooses the remedy to clean up, different portions of the site. And then we ask the public, and we have at least a 30-day comment period. And so we're asking you, hey, what do you think about this? Do you agree? Do you have concerns? And that's when you can give us your concerns. And like I said, throughout the process, feel free to call us. And then EPA reviews and responds to all those comments, just like we did during the public comment period for the listing. And there's lots of opportunities available for the community involvement through the remedy selection phase, and that's just a feasibility study. Here's another place, and you can go to the administrative record, and if you have any questions, you can go and look in there too. So that's available for you for information. And we'll hold the public comment period. And like I said, please feel free to reach out and call myself or Marjorie. Right, so here's a timeline, and I mentioned that we do the remedial investigation, the risk assessment, feasibility study, and then after we choose an option and the community has some buy-in and that the community feels like that's the right direction, then the proposed plan is completed. So there has been a lot of work done on this site, and so we're thinking the remedial investigation, and there's no promises, we don't know what we're going to find. So that's what it may be 2 to 5 years. 2 years would be very optimistic. But there has been a lot of work done. And so you collect data, and if you find out you have to step out and get more data to figure out where the contamination is, that can take some time. But we're building on previous work, so we're hoping it'll go faster than that. Okay, and again, we throw this in because there was concern at the last public meeting that the community would have to pay. So that's not true. Hercules is the identified party, and they're going to pay. All right. So throughout the listing and now from when we first started coming out to Hattiesburg, we've been maintaining consistent communication. We put out updates on the website. And by the way, if you don't have a computer, you can go up to the library and you can get on the website from there, because we post things at least every 4 to 6 weeks. So we've had many people call us throughout all the months that have gone on, that we've been out in the community and telling about the listing. And so we've had several people call. We've started a database with people who have some health concerns, and if you want to be added to that, please call us. And that's what we've shared that with ATSDR, and they're going to do something called a health consultation. And so what they do is they look into it, and I would advise you to go and talk to them. They can explain it better, but they look in to see what contaminants are there, and they look at the risk and some other things like that. And we share data with them as we collect it. So we had a meeting in May, and we're having a meeting today. And some of the community concerns, you all have beautiful yards. They're way nicer than mine. But you mentioned that you were concerned about, the appearance and the site maintenance, that it had declined, and you were concerned about that. So that's something we, as soon as we finished the meeting, we talked with Hercules, and Hercules did a great job. They've hired site maintenance people. They hired a local site maintenance company. So there's somebody in your neighborhood that's employed by Hercules, and they went and you can see that pole barn, that's before and after. So they cleared all that out. And that's a good thing, because then you won't have to worry about rodents or snakes or any kind of pests, being stuck in there. And then there was a sign that was old and kind of leaning and wasn't in use. So they demolished that, and I'm sure there's grass grown over that now. And then you can see the stacks that everybody in Hattiesburg knows about. And your mayor wants to keep those, by the way. So they've mowed all that. So they've done a lot. They fixed fencing, and they took care of rusty fences. So all the fence, weed spraying, there was a lot of weeds on the fence and you couldn't even see the property. So they sprayed those and then tugged those down. So I think it looks pretty good now. Can y'all see a difference? That's not perfect, but that's true. Yes. So one thing we are in conversation with about Hercules is on Providence Street. Can you see the piping and all the tanks and stuff like that? We're in conversations with them right now to see if we can get that taken down, because that's kind of an eyesore in your community. So how many people would like the piping and tanks taken down? Yeah, okay, awesome. So that's what we're continuing conversations about that. So another thing that happened right before Christmas, one of your community members, a gentleman, called EPA, and he said that a tree had fallen on the Hercules property onto his fence. And we immediately called Hercules, and I think Hercules had somebody out there that day, and they assessed the damage. And the next day they were out there and they cut up the tree and hauled it away, and they fixed the fence. And I think they did that in a couple of days. And that happened on the 22nd or the 23rd. So I was worried they wouldn't be able to find someone before Christmas, but they did. So, anytime if there's something that's going on that we can help you with, give us a call. We'd be glad to help. And I'm going to turn it over to Marjorie to talk about community involvement. Oh.
The Greens Creek
Mm-hmm.
on the site, you indicated that it dumps into the Bowie River. We have an active fishing community here
Oh,
and they fish in the Bowie River.
Oh, it's
And-
way down. That's way on down there. So,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's way on down from the site. Yeah.
But nevertheless, you did say that. I know
I
work
did.
has been done. And I wanted to know, any findings for that particular body of water that enters into the Bowie. And that's because we do have a lot of people who fish the Bowie.
Do they fish in Greens Creek?
No, not
No,
Greens
okay.
Creek. I'm talking
Just
about, you
making
said
sure.
that Greens Creek enters into the Bowie.
It does.
That's
It
my
does.
concern.
You know what? I don't even know how many miles that is downriver.
Okay.
But it's way on down the river. I don't have the data off the top of my head, but we have done some sediment sampling in there. Hercules has done some sediment sampling in there.
Right.
And we're still investigating right now. So we need to make sure that, we have to
Okay.
talk about that, converse about that, but we're going to collect some sediment samples and look at
Okay.
the data they've already collected.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I do know that the work was done, but I didn't recall anything about Greens Creek in what was done previously. And that is something that I really need to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Talk to me after and I'll get your name and number and let you know specifics. Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry.
So just a reminder, we will open up for question and answer when the PowerPoint is over. And we definitely want to make the time and space. So even if it means pushing the open house timeframe back a little bit, we'll do that because we want to hear from you. So EPA does take concerns from the community very seriously. As we've explained in previous sites, the Hattiesburg communities will have opportunities for meaningful involvement throughout the Superfund process. And I want to go over some different ways that we can be involved together. So I'm going to go through each of the little shapes for lack of a better word. So educational materials, those are things like fact sheets that I will send out and that I have sent out, community updates. And so let me put a plug in. If you didn't sign in, please do so. That helps build my mailing list. Whether you want to hear from me through email or through postal mail, where you get stuff through, through the postal mail. That's my way to keep in touch with you. And so if you didn't share that information, please do so. We won't share it with anybody else. So please keep that in mind, because we do want to keep you informed along the way. As far as outreach activities, some examples will be meetings, open houses like this, community interviews. I'd like to talk about that for just a minute. During this RIFS phase, I'm going to be developing what's called a community involvement plan. And that is a strategy or a document that really helps me identify the questions that you have, the concerns and the wants from the community. And so we learn about your concerns and your interests through community involvement questions. And so during the open house, I have a sign-in sheet. And if you would be one to generously give of your time, if you're interested in participating in a community interview with me, please list that and we'll schedule an interview time, because I'd love to get your feedback. And the more people we hear from, the more collective and more wide, all encompassing, maybe is the better word, all encompassing this community involvement plan can be. There you go. It helps inform the cleanup. So site information, the next rectangle. Site information is basically our site website. EPA has a site webpage designated for Hercules Inc. That's where you'll find the site documents. It's where you'll find the community updates, fact sheets. It's kind of your one-stop shop. And that website address I'll share at the very end. It's also on a handout that we have for the open house. Grants are available now that Hercules Inc. is a Superfund site. So a couple of grants that I want to briefly touch on. There's what's called a TAG, and that's a technical assistance grant. And it's available to 501c3 entities. The initial funding is up to $50,000. It's a competitive process. And so again, if you would like more information about that, please see me at the open house time. Environmental justice grants are another competitive grant with right now a good bit of funding available. So these are for communities that are experiencing environmental justice concerns. These are time-sensitive applications, but there are quite a number of those. I've got the link, a website link, and again, I can give more information during open house. Another type of resource that's available, it's not a grant, but it's called a task. It's a technical assistance services contract, and truly it is where EPA works with a contractor. The contractor then helps provide technical assistance information. It helps break down the technical information into layman's terms, so to speak. And so task is less cumbersome than a tag. We can talk more about that during open house. The last kind of resource I'd like to talk about is a CAG, and that's a community advisory group. That's a community initiative. It's intended to provide a forum made up of community members of diverse interests and needs. I've got a sheet, like I said, at the back, full of all the different kinds of resources, and we can talk about that. As a community, you all have input on the cleanup at the site. So please do take that fact sheet if you're interested in any kind of these resources that are available. So I mentioned the open house several times, that there are subject matter experts. The way you've probably seen the tables around the room. So there is a table with EPA staff after we finish our question and answer time. EPA staff will be there at a table to answer technical questions. At another table will be ATSDR, EPA, and the Mississippi State Department of Health to discuss the health assessment and hear your health concerns. At another table are EPA and MDEQ to discuss community involvement and opportunities. And at another table is Hercules Inc. or Hercules LLC, Hercules LLC staff to discuss the site and community involvement. And I just threw out some acronyms, so let me say what those are. So MDEQ is the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. MSDH is the Mississippi Department of Health. EPA, you know, Environmental Protection Agency. Let's see, was there anybody else? Did I mention any other acronyms that you were like, who is that? Thank you. Okay, so ATSDR is the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. They're based out of Atlanta. So this last slide is contact information for Deidre and me, and it also lists the website, which is that one-stop shop. I encourage you to either jot down that information. If you want to take a picture of it right now, I'm going to keep this slide up. And so feel free feel free, take that information down. For questions and answers. Oh, thank you. Forgot introductions. So hold on just a second. Okay, let's see. Y'all bear with me. Okay. Oh, darn it. Okay, so, maybe this saved the day? No. All right, so I greatly apologize. I don't have my list of everybody's names. So what I'm going to ask, I guess, is that I'll call out the agency and maybe we can pass the mic around and everybody introduce themselves. Does that work? Everybody good with that? Okay. So can we start with the city? Ms. Jones, are you ready?
Sorry, we don't hear you online.
I apologize. I'll forget the online. We have Betsy Mercier, our interim director of Parks and Recreation here tonight. Hunter White, who is our works with our engineering and traffic department. Alan Howe is our director of water and sewer. Chief Peggy Seeley, our police chief. Got Whit Sanguinetti, who is assistant division manager of code enforcement. Ronnie Perkins, who is our public works director. And then I believe that is everybody we have. And of course, I'm Ann Jones. Yes, I'm sorry. We have Councilman Ward 1, Jeffrey George is with us. And Councilwoman Deborah Delgado from Ward 2 up on the front row. Correct.
Y'all had great representation. Thank you so much for being here. So EPA staff, again, I'm Marjorie Thomas. I'm the Community Involvement Coordinator.
I'm Kevin Kaporik, Human Health Risk Assessor.
Deidre Lloyd, the remedial project manager for Hercules.
And I'm Ben Benkowski, the hydrogeologist and for groundwater contamination and vapor intrusion issues.
And I'm Graham Burkhalter. I'm the site attorney.
And then from ATSDR, if you'll stand up.
Good evening. I am Sue Castile with ATSDR Region 4 Office, which covers Mississippi. I am our Health Education and Community Involvement Coordinator.
Hi, I'm Leanne Bing with ATSDR Region 4. We're in the same office, and I'm the other half of the office, Environmental Health Scientist.
Then with MDEQ, if y'all will stand up.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Wallace. I'm the Division Chief of the Groundwater Assessment Remediation Division, which houses our Circular branch. Our branch chief for that is Ahmed Raspberry. And he has with him one of his staff project managers, Tennille Lindsay.
I'm Taka Scott Bailey. I'm the director for the MDEQ Office of Community Engagement. We do handle public involvement, environmental justice, and outreach assistance for the agency. I have with me Ms. Lynn Bradshaw. She is also with the Office of Community Engagement. She's the outreach coordinator. And the lovely lady walking in back there is our public involvement coordinator, Ms. Cassandra Johnson, which many of you may already know.
If you'll go to the back. So for Hercules Inc.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Tim Hassett. I'm with Hercules. I'm based out of Wilmington, Delaware. I've been working on this project for over 20 years. Look forward, and Hercules has been in the community for almost 100 years. Look forward to working it with everybody to bring it back to productive use. I have Jason Hughes with Arcadis. He's our remediation project manager. And with him is Antonio Cardoso, who also helps him out. We have Chrissy Pachowski with also with Ashland, and Gloria Tatum is our community involvement coordinator, and we have Donna Lum working with us as well.
Oh, yay. And we, Jen, if you'll bring the mic up this way, we have one other person. It's county alderman, a county alderman.
My name is Sharon Thompson. I'm representing the Forest County Board of Supervisors. And Hercules is in my district.
Perfect. I've got to say, even with the different agencies, this is the first time I've seen some of y'all face to face, and it's really nice. So, yes. Do we have any other local officials?
With the different agencies, the EPA, the ATSDR, the MDEQ, Hercules, and I know Gloria Tatum is, but any of the others local.
EPA is based, we cover 8 states, and we're based in Atlanta. No, ma'am, I do not.
All right, so we're going to open it up for questions and answers. It is, let's see, 7, so it's 6:45. Let's start with some questions from our virtual audience first. Laura, the voice in the sky.
Yeah, that's me. Hi. Okay, I think we don't have any in the Q&A box, but I do see somebody typed a few in our chat. So I'll tell you, the first one is, why keep the stacks?
And the way our panel is going to handle it, whoever is best suited to answer that. The question was, why keep the stacks?
So I was asked, why keep the stacks? That's true. there's a lady in the audience that said, for the historical value. So Hercules has been here since 1923, and the mayor, and I think they're kind of a landmark, is my understanding, in Hattiesburg. And so they wanted to keep the stacks as a historical landmark. Does that answer her question?
Paul, you can type in the chat if that did. I'll ask, this gentleman has asked a few questions. Second one is, if the areas are non-hazardous, do these areas need cleanup? If so, why if they are non-hazardous? I would think that only hazardous areas would need cleaning. I can repeat that if needed.
So hazardous substance has a special meaning in the Superfund program. So there's pollutants and contaminants, and then there's hazardous substances. And so anything that's a pollutant or contaminant or a hazardous substance, we will clean up. If they're above, if they're an issue, we will clean them up, and we'll find them and clean them up. So hazardous substance, it's kind of misleading sometimes, but it has a special definition under CERCLA. And so we will clean it up.
Okay. Question 3. What is the area/size of the hazardous waste?
I was going to say, we don't know yet. That's why we're here. We're going to conduct a remedial investigation. There's been some work done, a lot of work done, but we're going to identify data gaps. So we do not have an idea of how much contamination is, but that's why we're here.
All right. And the last question is, what is the estimated cost to Hercules for this cleanup operation in total?
So we won't know what the cleanup is, the total cost yet, but because we haven't identified all the contamination throughout the site horizontally and vertically, like I was mentioning. So we don't know, but they've already spent quite a bit of money so far. And so the answer is, I don't know, but we can keep you in the loop.
And we have not made a decision with Hercules about what it will take to clean that particular area up, whether it's some soil or some groundwater. We have to understand the nature and extent of it. And then we evaluate several technologies that are commonly used to clean up those kind of contaminants in those situations. And we do a big cost comparison, and we'll select a remedy for the various areas, probably several different areas. We'll work through it progressively. It's a big site. It's 200+ acres, right? So
yes, it is. So we're just going to, as Ben mentioned, we're going to work through it. We're going to figure out the data gaps, and then we'll move forward and figure out how much it is. How it is, how much, if it's down to 70 feet or 300 feet, or I'm making up numbers. So don't. So I don't think it's down to 300 feet, but.
Let me say one more thing. So one of my watchwords, or one of my watch phrases is I make decisions with data. So something, this feels all right. No, that's not how I make my decisions. We have the soil data, we have the groundwater data, we know the nature and extent. It's quite an involved process, but I've been doing it for the better part of 40 years now. And yes, let's make decisions with data.
Laura, are there any more questions from?
Marjorie, if you don't mind, I was going to
Oh,
jump
yeah,
in.
my
There's
bad.
one more thing that we wanted to add for the remedy selection process is that after we've gone through the process that Ben was just describing, where we look at the data, look at all the different technologies that are available, we do put together a plan, and we present that plan to the community and invite your comments on the plan, probably in this room. And some of the programs that Marjorie was mentioning earlier, she mentioned the TAG, she mentioned the TASK. Those are technical assistance programs that will help the community be able to understand all the very technical and scientific data that goes into it. Their way of breaking all that information down so that the input that y'all give will be that it will be informed and that you are giving the best input that you can.
Your voices are heard.
Exactly.
Laura, are there any
So-
more from online?
So please call us. So I wanted to tell you something about the Technical Assistance and Services Grant. That's an EPA grant. And what happens is we investigate what the community wants to know about. And EPA contractors go out and they talk to the community, and it's all about the community. And then you don't have to worry about the overhead, having to keep track of money and compete for contractors. But you can do that with the tag, and that's a great opportunity too. But I just wanted to task. So I've been involved in one of those before. And what we did is over several iterations, we would choose a topic and we would have some questions, and we would ask the community what they were concerned about, what their interests were. For instance, there were a few farmers in this area, and they said, well, we're concerned about our dairy cows. So we sampled dairy cows, the milk coming from dairy cows. And another person was concerned about their garden. And so we did that too.
Thank you. Are there any more virtual questions?
I'm not seeing any currently, but for those of you online, it looks like Zoom may also have the raise hand function under more now. So if you click more and click raise your hand there, if you wish to ask a question verbally, we can hear you. Go ahead, raise your hand. But in the meantime, I'll pass it to you in the room.
All right, so questions from the audience. And if you will, please speak into the microphone. That way everybody in the room, as well as those that are online, can hear.
In your presentation, you said the investigation and remediation design is a 2 to 5 year plan right now anyway. But do you have an agreement in place with Hercules to fund this, and how much money is that involved?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know if we were going to get any legal questions today, so thank you for that. Yes, there is an agreement in place for the remedial investigation and feasibility study. Hercules is signed on to it. It is executed. It is in effect, and we're already working towards some of the early deliverables that are required under that agreement. Hercules has already presented their previous investigation summary report. They are due to submit a work plan in the coming weeks or months. So we don't know exactly how much it is going to cost them at this time, but it is moving forward. And yeah.
Next question.
A little confused on the testing that's already been done for a number of years. I live on North 19th, not too far from Hercules property. And I see Xeon, it's on part of the old Hercules property. They've been going for a number of years, and I assume there's no problems there. But what is all the testing that's been done in the last years? I'm confused on where you come in relation to that.
Okay, so this site has recently been put on the national priorities list, which makes it the federal agencies become the lead agency. Up until that point, the management, the environmental management of the site was done in cooperation with Mississippi DEQ. And so that work was under, under RCRA, but which is delegated, not Mississippi, is it? Okay. Obviously.
Yeah, I can actually answer this one as well. So yeah, the work that has been done over the past 10, 12 years or so has been done under the RCRA program. So there are basically two different laws that give the EPA the authority to clean up hazardous contamination sites. There is RCRA, which was involved over the previous years, and now there's the Superfund program, which is us. We're the program that is taking over the cleanup. So the sampling that has been done has been under the RCRA program to implement RCRA cleanups, and a lot of work. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have a tendency, and I think everyone in the EPA does, we throw out acronyms. RCRA stands for the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, but we just shorten it to RCRA. And so over the past 10, 12 years, that data that they've been collecting, they have been using it to implement a number of remedial cleanups already. So they have closed out the impoundment basins. They have determined to a certain extent the location of groundwater contamination, and really just gotten a general grasp of the contamination that's out there. But we've now transferred the cleanup authority to the Superfund program because it is a broader cleanup authority. We have a bit more flexibility in being able to request the work or order, in some cases, the work that we want done. And so we believe that being able to do the work under the Superfund program will be more efficient and be able to build on all the work that has been done already.
Thank you, Graham.
Next question, Jen.
Yes, I'd like to know when, do you know when those tanks were constructed? At that time, that when they were operating? I think it was the sludge tanks, the big tanks.
The sludge pits,
Yes,
they were used throughout the operations. I don't know the exact date that they were opened. But so what they do is they dig down. There's no liner at the bottom of it. They dig out pits. And so they would transport the sludge to these pits. And the sludge it varies from 5 to 10 feet in the cells, and there are 5 of them. So what they do is have one cell, and then when that one got filled to the surface, then they would go on to the second cell. And like I said, I don't know the exact date it started, but it was throughout the whole operations of the site. Does that answer your question?
yeah, and I have one more.
Okay.
What about the areas where there were water runoffs, like in the Scott Street and bypass area, where they were open areas where the water just ran free and fumes ran up in front of residents' homes and behind their homes? That's what I'd like to know.
We're gonna anywhere, let us know if we don't, if there's some place that you're concerned about. But we will test anywhere where contamination has gone.
Okay, because I lived on Scott Street from the time I was born, from 67 all the way up to 95. And it was rough over there when we were living. I was just wondering about the testing over there. And we had like a 15 to 20 foot area in front of our home that was open, and water ran all the time through that area from Hercules, and it was very, very bad odor coming from there.
Yeah, I imagine so.
And if I could interject, remember that ATSDR is going to be conducting a health assessment if you have health concerns that are related to that.
Could I ask in behalf of the
sir?
community? Oh, I'm
Give me
sorry.
just one second. Sir, where were you? That was. Okay, I couldn't see you. I'm short. If you'll make sure you give your address to us, and then we'll add you to our list that we're keeping for ATSDR. And see, this is what's so great about the community being involved is, those are things that only y'all can tell us, and we really do want to hear from you. And so we really, yeah, and so that'll be somewhere that we check out. And so, that may be one of the things that, we don't see on a map or anything like that, but thank you for telling us. And make sure we get your name and your number and your address and all that stuff.
Could I ask, since you're doing testing now, and as the gentleman indicated, testing has been done off and on for the past 15, 20 years, however long, what's the possibility that the community can have the data and the extent of the contamination then and now? You're going to test again, and we'd be interested to know what pluming looks like now. So we don't want to discard the old information.
Oh,
We
no.
want to
Yeah, we're definitely keeping the old information. So what we've talked about is right now, this is just kind of a kickoff public meeting to tell you where we are in the process and what we're doing. And we plan to have a meeting when we get a little further down the road and we can have and tell you what work we're going to do and share. And we're happy to share all the data with you. We can put it on the website. It has to go through a, process. We have to have the report finalized. But yes, we're happy to share the data with you. And yeah, and that's what. So the administrative record is the legal. EPA has to have an administrative record anytime that there's a cleanup and a decision is made. And you can find a wealth of data in the administrative record. And that's usually, I think we can get to it from the website.
Yes. that's
And
right.
you can always go to the library and look at the administrative record there too.
Okay,
We do have another question online. I just wanted to mention.
Ma'am? How what'd you have in mind for releasing?
We're gonna have these meetings
Mhm.
continually, so that's my request, that we see the difference between then and now.
Okay, so you'd like to see some paper copies at the meeting? Is that, okay, okay. Yeah, what we can do is we can have some posters like that. Hercules can make up some posters under our direction, after we've agreed on, that this is delineated and, we've come to a decision or not come to a decision, but a decision about what we're going to investigate. But yeah, we can have posters and we can send out, get you all the data that your heart desires.
when some of your questions, when you were answering some of the questions earlier, I was thinking that I would go to MDEQ to get some answers about the site based upon what happened years ago,
Mhm.
because we've been in these meetings and we've had these test results sent to us. And so MDEQ is not the source that we go to. We would have to go to RCWA to find out what was done before.
No, actually, MDEQ has a great website that you can go and look at all the reports. Thomas, can you, we can share that web address with you.
Okay, so I can get Green Creek's results from you. But you don't know whether they sampled. I'm sure they did.
For you and look it up and work with you to get any information you need that we have on file.
That is a present concern for me because we have an active fishing community. And these people fish the Boy River and they take it home and feed it to their families. That's a concern for me.
Ms.
Yes.
Delgado, we have some information on Greens Creek and the investigation when we may decide we need more, but we have some sediment samples and we do have some surface water samples from Greens Creek that Hercules collected before, and I'm happy to share those with you. Absolutely.
All right. So we'll catch the one no, you're good. Stay where you are and we'll catch the one in the back in just a minute.
Yes, ma'am. I was raised up right on Old Gordon, Old Creek there on West 8th Street. We planted a garden, me and my father did, when I was just a little kid, right there where the two big tanks was. And my son here, he ate crab apples all up and down that creek. And he was growing up. And I just wanted you to set a 2 to 5 year assessment, really is what you're talking about, I guess. Will that encompass the health hazards and all in that 2 to 5 year assessment?
So that's what ATSDR is going to do. They're going to do a health consultation. Leanne, would you like to come up and tell them a little bit about the health consultation?
Or Jen, can you take the microphone?
But yes, that's what they do is they look at our data that we collect
Leanne,
and then they look at it from a health standpoint. And we also have a human health risk assessor who looks over that.
So similar to what Kevin said earlier, the data makes our decisions. So we look at the data and see how people were exposed, if they could have been exposed, how long they were exposed, how people are affected differently. Children are affected differently than adults to exposures. Let me see what else I'm missing. Then we provide conclusions and recommendations on how to reduce exposure. Sometimes we give those recommendations before EPA can finish cleaning up. And, these are what things you can do until things are cleaned up. But if you have more questions, we'll be right here to answer them.
Question from the back, was that
And
right
sir,
there?
will you make sure that you sign that and let us collect your name, and we'd like to interview you? We'll show you after the meeting.
Derek, was there a question from the back? Oh, good, okay.
Hi, I was involved talking with MDEQ before you guys were involved. And they told me that they took, when I asked them where they took the sludge when they were cleaning up and what that process was, they told me they took it to a landfill on the other side of Hattiesburg. So I'm curious, the cleanup that's already happened, is that true that they just moved it from one spot of Hattiesburg to another? And if so, why is that spot any safer?
If they moved any sludge off site, I'm not aware of it, and I'll let Thomas speak to this. And you don't know either? Okay. The only thing, I haven't read that either. We'll talk after the meeting though, if that's, so the only thing, ma'am, that's there. Okay, can you put that picture up?
Yeah.
So it's in a horseshoe shape. It's in a U. And remember I talked about the 5 cells? And so they dug down, and there's native soil underneath, then that just means that there's no liner. Sometimes they put liners when they are going to store chemicals. They'll put a clay liner or they'll put different kinds of liners. This is way back when 1923, CERCLA wasn't enacted until the 80s. And so it was kind of like the Wild Wild West before CERCLA was enacted. And so there's disposal, and all the businesses did this. So they didn't know. And but after CERCLA was enacted, then we have, some best practices and things in laws that are enforceable, and RCRA too. But so the only thing I know about the sludge pits is that there were 5 cells. And like I said, the sludge came from the wastewater treatment plant, and the wastewater treatment plant treated the water that came from all the processes on site through piping, above ground piping, and then they piped it through the wastewater treatment plant, and then it was treated. And then it went to the impoundment basin where there was continued treatment and collection of, some of the solids. And then they pumped that into the E10 tank. And that's the 5 million gallon tank. They had a couple other tanks on site. I think they were E18 and 19 or something like that. But I do not know of any sludge being taken off site. No, so
in recent years, there was cleanup out there.
So the cleanup was when, for instance, the impoundment basin, they took all that out. I think it was right around 7,000 pounds because, it fell out. While it was settling, it fell out. And so they did take that, and that was disposed off offsite. That I think, yeah.
Where?
Yeah, that was disposed.
Where?
That I don't know. I can look at a report and let you know though.
Okay.
Do you want to know the specific landfill? Okay, well, yeah, no, okay. Okay, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm happy. I'll look it up. So what they do is, when the responsible party will hire a contractor, I think that Hercules uses Clean Harbors. And so that contractor, then they take responsibility, and then they transport the waste to a landfill or wherever. And there are different classes of landfills depending on the material. Class C, Class D. Class D is what like all our garbage goes into. But I will find out. Clean Harbor. I don't know. I'll have to think about that because they're a contractor for Hercules. So I'll tell you what we can do. I can talk to you about how that whole process works. And I can talk to you in technical at our next technical meeting. Would I'm happy to talk about how waste, how we identify it
And so what we do is we'll store it somewhere in drums. And then what we have to do is send it off for analysis. And then after it comes back from analysis, then we figure out is it hazardous? And that's a certain level of whatever chemical it is. If it's non-hazardous, then that's a little bit easier to dispose of because just about anybody can take non-hazardous. But if it's hazardous, and hazardous has to do with the level of either that's the contaminant level of the soil or the water. And so, and then that will have to be in I think a class C, but it has to be in a hazardous waste landfill. And they have more stringent criteria for, the liner and what they accept and what they don't accept. So, but I'm happy to give you more information about that if you'd like.
Jen, there's a question, the lady towards the back.
Marjorie, we have one online as well.
Okay, let me take this one since we've identified Jen, it's the lady in the back. Oh, I'm sorry, we got one there too.
I was just gonna say, I would have to look up where I found this. It was in a MDEQ document somewhere that I think some of the contaminants were moved to a landfill in Jones County.
In Jones County.
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I read that somewhere. I
Okay.
think around
But
Odette.
Deidre, you're gonna follow up about the landfill question.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. I apologize.
This gentleman said he thought he had read that it was moved to a landfill in Jones County.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll definitely look into that.
All right, we'll take this lady's question and then we'll take the virtual question.
Yes, I know you guys are planning to do the cleanup site on the Hercules site. But, a lot of us have been in these meetings consistently. I know I have. And I think what you guys need to do is what I'm asking. Is there any way, and I think this is the biggest concern of us all, not just for the Hercules site, but is there any way that you guys can give us present day data about any contamination outside that site that is involving our communities? Because one of my concerns is that I had issues on my property that I had to go get some help about. I can't do hardly anything on my property, and I was asking for soil samples to be done. I have not gotten any replies as of yet, so I don't want to keep coming back to the meetings and still don't have no answers. I know you're going to do the cleanup site at the Hercules site, but there are a lot of concerns about our community and our properties and what we are facing here. So do you guys have any data presently about any contaminants outside that site? That's what I need to know. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm asking for that. When I first attended those meetings, I wrote those issues down on paper and presented to you guys.
You sent it to us?
I didn't send it. I wrote it down in one of the meetings and I gave it to you guys when you took up some of the paperwork. You guys has been conversing, writing with my family, with my husband and I, and sending us updated information on your meetings and what you're planning on doing and all this. I'm receiving all of that. But just like a lot of us are still sitting here concerning contaminants like the Boyd River that I just heard just tonight is a concern. We're concerned not only about the cleanup site with Hercules, but we're also concerned about our community, the contaminants that might be existing on our properties.
Thank you for sharing your concerns. Would you mind signing our sheet? And I can talk to you, Marjorie, and I can talk to you after the meeting too, because I want to make sure that we have captured your concerns and that it's part of ATSDR's consultation process. And truly, the more that we have of information like that, the better our consultation with ATSDR will be, and the more informed we'll be about the site. Because we are collecting the information and we keep it. And we are going to have a meeting in the future when we have some technical data to share with you. And so that's, we plan to have another meeting pretty soon.
I just want to add on to a little bit of what Deidre said. All of the data that we have taken and all of the data that we've used to rely on the NPL listing, all of the data that we've looked at when we're working through the RIFS, it is all going to be publicly available. It is all going to be available online. So any sampling data that you need to look at, it will be there for you, in addition to, you know, the conversations that we can have in these meetings. Mhm. Okay.
There are many of us in this meeting that live in the community that are really not that. We know what we see, we know what we hear, we know what we smell.
Mhm.
We have, you know, these. I do have a question, but I think it's kind of an all of the other questions. But how do you address those of us that are not so familiar with all the terms that we use? All the data that we have. We just want answers we want our communities to be better. We want to not have to wake up to the smell. We want to not have to look out of our window and see the sun and that kind of thing. I appreciate all that you said and done, but a lot of it is just over and above our head.
Do you want to take it? Okay, sure. I will pass it off to Deidre in just a second. I will say that I'm not a scientist either, so I understand where you're coming from about not necessarily understanding all of the data. The two things that I would say to be able to help you understand what is being presented in those documents would, number one, I'm going to plug the technical assistance grant and the technical assistance services contract. Those are two ways to get a separate party. TAG allows you to hire your own, but it's a little more of a cumbersome process. TASP, we would bring a contractor that would be able to break down everything for you into more layman's terms that non-scientists would be able to understand.
With maps.
With maps, with you know. And you can always, you know, if there is something that you don't know, like Deidre was saying, you can always contact Deidre if there's something that you need help.
And I know you said, I knew that said that our voices are heard, we get the information that we don't know. But what are some of the issues that you're getting? I hear what the people are saying here, but you've been gathering this information for the last 15 or so plus years. What kind of, tell us some of the concerns. I know what my concern is.
Some of the,
I don't necessarily know what my neighbor.
oh, some of the concerns in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Let's see, we've had people have mentioned concerns with gardening. They had a rash. What else, Marjorie? Do you have a better memory than I do?
So concerns, disease concerns. And so all the concerns that we've.
I mean, do you get concerns about health issues?
That's one of the advantages of being in the Superfund program is that we do a rigorous health assessment. And that's what ATSDR does. And so what they do is they look at our data and they're health experts. We look at chemical data and how to clean it up. And we know he knows a lot about risk, but he doesn't make health decisions. He can tell you about chemical risk and things like that. And we can tell you, you know, what chemicals are out there. And by the way, you can call me anytime and I'm happy to tell you, you know, technical data, explain it to you. I kind of like it.
And if I could piggyback off Deidre, so I've gotten emails and phone calls and I have a database that I have shared with ATSDR so that your concerns are addressed from that health concern standpoint, that the people that deal with that are the ones that are getting getting that from us.
And some of the concerns, it's coming back to me. In addition to the garden, they mentioned concerns about contamination in their neighborhood. Somebody, talked about their attic, and somebody else, concerned about different things. They mentioned, cancer, and, told us about health issues. We don't know. And so that's why they're doing the health consultation, because what we do is we collect the data, we assess the risk from a chemical standpoint, and then they tell you what organs or what, how it's done. They look into cancer clusters and some different things like that. They pull lots of different data. Every state has a cancer cluster. I don't want to call it a registry, but they keep track of that. Is it a registry? Yeah. You want to?
Well, yeah, what ATSDR would do would be to look at past exposure that could have caused health effects from the past. That's difficult to do if you go back very far, but it is difficult to know what the concentrations might have been in your yard or in the in the creek or something that flows by in the past. But they will try to do that as best they can. And they will be looking at the current data that's been collected and that we'll be collecting as part of the remedial investigation and looking at what might be associated with health effects now and going into the future. And what we do in the risk assessment process that EPA does is similar, but a little bit different, where we have toxicity information on the important chemicals at the site. And we will quantify the health risk to make sure that if we need to clean it up, we will clean it up. If there's levels in the groundwater that are above drinking water standards, those will get attention. And for chemicals that don't have drinking water standards and ones that do, we will be quantifying the health risk to make sure that it gets to determine if the health risks are unacceptable. And if they are, then we'll make sure that it gets cleaned up to a health protective level. And just add on to what Deidre was saying before about defining the horizontal and vertical extent of contamination. We'll make sure we find the contamination as deep as it has gone now and as far horizontally as gone. It might not necessarily stop at the fence line of the facility. If it goes beyond the fence line, then we will continue to investigate that until we found all of the contamination that came from the site operations or the site disposal practices and whatnot.
So I'm going to put it again, that very last slide, so that you have Deidre and my information. Are there other questions?
Yep, we're jumping in from online.
Oh, sorry. All right, Laura.
The question here is, will the residents in the immediate area be compensated for being in close proximity of hazardous contamination?
Compensation is not something that's handled by EPA. That's not something that's handled under CERCLA. I know that there have been lawsuits in the past, but those would be separate from what we do. That's been private litigation. So, if there is a cleanup needed, we would either do the cleanup ourselves or require the responsible party to do the cleanup. But compensation is something outside of what Superfund does.
Laura, other questions?
Don't see anybody else. Anyone else online have a question? Want to raise your hand? We can unmute you.
All right, Laura, while you're looking, we have
You've
somebody
already
that's
asked a
been
question.
waiting a
Can I
while.
let him ask a question? Just thank you so much. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
The assumption seems to be, or at least there's a kind of an idea that Hercules never was doing the right thing. That this is caused by Hercules not ever doing the right thing. But I know for a fact that Hercules was taking things to Mobile, Alabama, to the hazardous waste landfill back in the early 80s. So as far as them just taking waste just somewhere, they were in the practice of profiling their waste and handling it according to the the laws that were in place at the time. The,
Yes.
during that period of time, and I'm talking about from the early 80s on up.
Okay.
And when they mention local landfills, there are some cleanups that have happened that are related to asbestos.
Hmm.
And we have a landfill here that takes asbestos.
Hmm.
And so you look that up and you'll find that landfill has waste from Hercules, but it was legally done and properly. And so I'm not saying everything was done right, but I'm saying it's good to alleviate people's fears to let them know, hey, it's not that everything was done wrong. It's not everything was done right, but necessarily not everything was done wrong either.
No, that's absolutely right. Not everything was done wrong, and that's certainly not what we meant to convey. And so the waste profiling, and Emile, Alabama has a well-known hazardous waste landfill. And it's very large. So it's in Emile, Alabama. I don't know what the name of it is, EMILLE, but you can look up Emile, Alabama landfill. I don't remember the name of the landfill, but we send lots of, oh, he says it's run by Waste Management.
It's in the northwest corner of the state.
Mhm. So until CERCLA and RCRA were enacted, that's what when I was talking about it being the Wild Wild West, all the businesses did that. They didn't know better and there were no regulations in place. And so everybody, you heard about Love Canal and Valley of the Drums, thousands of drums just left out in the middle of nowhere. And those two are two of the big sites that got CERCLA started. And they were horrible. And but like I said, that's the advantage of CERCLA. But before then, it truly was a wild, wild west. Everybody was just, a lot of people go and throw it in the river. So they haven't, but you're absolutely right. They haven't done everything wrong by no stretch. Anytime you have an industry, there are going to be things that happen. But that's why America has some of the strongest environmental laws out there. And yeah, they're, cumbersome at times, but we still have some of the cleanest water on the planet. And so we're lucky in that respect.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment.
Hi, when I was talking to the MDEQ, they told me I could gain access to every record possible from every single year possible. That there was archives and that they would have to dig them up. It was going to cost me $1,200. Unfortunately, it kind of stopped me in my tracks. But it sounds like we, the people, could gain access to records. They said the only thing was that we couldn't get the lawsuit records from Hercules, that we would have to get them directly ourselves from them. And so it sounds like we, the people, could do the same kind of research you're doing and have the same kind of power and have ownership over our destiny if we so choose. Is that right?
So all EPA's documents are public documents that are available on, for instance, the specifically related to Hercules or on that Hercules website.
Yeah, and I can clarify that a little bit more. So what we put on the website is called the administrative record, and we put on any documents that we considered in making our decision. So that doesn't mean every single document that exists about Hercules. So if there are documents that you are looking for that are not present on the administrative record, you can always ask us for it. It's called the Freedom of Information Act, and we are required by law to produce anything that is not privileged or confidential, essentially. I'm not a FOIA lawyer, so I can't tell you all the details there. There are some costs sometimes, but that would be, so I would say, if you are looking for information, I would say to start at the administrative record. And if you are not satisfied with the information there, the Freedom of Information Act is the next way. And I'm pretty sure that you can make that request through our website. I don't think it's a relatively hard process to request, but that is not my area of expertise.
So if we could take I'm sorry.
I was just going to clarify, Graham, if all the work done under RCRA authority, if RCRA has an administrative type record for this facility or?
I don't know. Oh, sorry, was there?
NDEQ has a great database. We look at all the things. Yeah, they do. You know what? We're gonna find it and put it on the slide and show it up there while y'all are doing the open house. I'm gonna get the website and we'll put it up there for you.
And many of the documents that we relied on are RCRA documents. It's not just Superfund documents that go into the administrative record. We, like we've said a few times, we are building on the work that's been done previously. And so that administrative record is going to contain not only, new documents that we've generated, but it will also include documents from the years that RCRA was involved as well.
All right, so before we take another question from the audience, can we take Laura, one of the virtual questions, or a couple if there are more?
I'm not currently seeing any.
Oh.
Anybody raise your hand? Put it in the Q&A.
All right, well, we still have some from the audience, so we'll keep on going with the audience then.
Good evening. I'm wondering, with the Hercules project, I can tell by this meeting, this is not the first time that the citizens of Hattiesburg have had to come to the table for Hercules. And so I hear a lot of planning for testing and we'll get back to you. But at the end of the day, the citizens of Hattiesburg need answers and they need action. Hercules is not new. You've already said it's been here since 1923. This is not new. You've known in 1980, this was not a good look and it was hazardous. When are the people of Hattiesburg going to get their reckoning? When are they going to have some action, concrete action, something for the citizens, because it's not fair to live somewhere where the ground is contaminated, can't grow anything, can't fish. All of this is what the citizens of Hattiesburg have been dealing with, not 1 year, not 2 years. This has gone on for decades. When is there actually going to be true action? Because right now, it's a lot of testing this. We'll talk to you here. We'll get back to you here. Enough is enough. When is it going to be Hattiesburg's time to be cleaned up?
Yeah, I'll take this one as well. And thank you. And I hear you. We understand where you're coming from. And that is the main reason that we have switched over to the Superfund program. The Superfund program, sorry, we're having trouble seeing each other. The Superfund program gives us a lot more flexibility to be able to require the cleanups that are needed. So yeah, I mean, sitting here right now, up here, I keep hearing testing. I understand it sounds repetitive and it sounds like we're just planning and we're not getting anywhere. But we really are on a track to decide what cleanup is required, what is going to be the best cleanup. And so that is the process that we're in right now. And it really, it's unfortunate, but it does take a while to really be able to grasp the full extent of the contamination that is at a site that is this large and is this old. But I assure you that is the goal of the Superfund process and what we are trying to do, because we really do have a lot of authority under the Superfund law that anywhere that there are hazardous substances, we are able to clean it up. And so it's a bit of an extended timeline, but we are working toward it.
All right, I'm familiar with the EPA and with the Superfund because you had a very large Superfund in New Jersey and Ringwood with the Ford Motor Company, and that still is not 100. So my question is there a timeline? So we can have some accountability? Is there a timeline that you can say, well, within the next year, we will have 25% of the testing done? What a timeline of something, because like I said, I'm hearing that these meetings have gone on for years and you've had a little bit of a cleanup, then I don't know what happened, then you had more cleanup, but you still have things to do. And it seems like things are getting handed off. So timeline, accountability, that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
In regards to what you said, but you really need testing and investigations in order to make the properties look more effective, presentable.
No.
So why can't we get that done? I mean, why does that have to take 2 to 5 years?
Excuse me. We've done,
we've done a lot of site maintenance activities.
I know, I live right across the street from it. and I know
Providence.
on yesterday and today, there were people over there on riding mowers cleaning up.
Mhm.
But again, it's the inside of the properties that look, that are just so ugly, for lack of a better word.
No, you're right. And that's what one of the things I'm in constant communication with Hercules about, that above ground tank that you see that's kind of large. There's 2 or 3 of them over there. And then there's a lot of piping across from Providence Street. And that's what,
Bushes,
Mhm.
trees, right, dogs running in and out.
yeah. And so we are in conversations with them. And we're hoping that will be soon.
Sorry, just one thing to add to that. So what Superfund does is it gives us the authority to clean up hazardous substances. So we don't have the authority to order aesthetic things. So that's something that we're working on voluntarily with Hercules for the mowing and the maintenance and things like that. But what we do is hazardous substance cleanup. And so we do understand the aesthetic problems and we want to work with Hercules to get those done, but that's more of a voluntary basis thing. And their representatives are here tonight, so they will be available during the open house.
During the open
Yeah, they
house.
will be available during
Yep.
the open house.
Yep. So it is
I have
7.
one thing that I must say.
Sure.
Regarding the availability of information, this lady mentioned trying to secure information. And, you know, there are some of us who do go online and search for information. But a few years ago, we had a major issue in our community that required me to have information from MDEQ. And I did the request for information, got communication saying, you have to come up here and get it and do the research yourself. So I went there and took a young man with me, thinking that we would go through a few files. They put me in a room where files were from the ceiling to the floor, huge. This young man and I spent days up there looking for information that I needed because I had issues that I was trying to present to MDEQ for the benefit of my community. So there is the availability of information ideally, but then there's a reality that perhaps if from this meeting, MDEQ can get together with some of us and talk about how it is that as your ordinary Jane and John Doe, we are able to access information when we have specific questions about the health and safety of our community.
So MDEQ is going to be at least one of our tables as a subject matter expert for information and sharing. And so I'm sure you can connect. Are there very many more questions? If you will, just raise your hand if you have another question. All right, Jen, maybe we'll take that last one. It's 7:39, 7:40. So we'll take one more question and then move it to the open house time where, again, you can have more one-on-one conversations with subject matter experts. Okay. All right, so Jen, we'll take that gentleman.
What I'm hearing is the community just simply wants some answers. I live at Joe Blow Road. Can I get a testing? I want to know, are there contaminants in my yard and my neighbor's yard? We want to know. I hear you talking about the 10-year assessment. In 2023, we got technology now that we can move so fast, tell you, hey, you got a problem here. And this is what we want to hear. We got a problem over here. You see, time is of the essence right now. I can't say that these people died of cancer because of this situation, but I can say we have numbers and numbers of cancer cases that not decreasing, increasing in this area. So very simply put, just give us some answers. We're talking about a 10-year timeline, an assessment. Obviously, there's a problem, obviously. But over here on our side, the community, we know there's a problem over there, but is there a problem in my yard? That gentleman mentioned I think fishing. I think she mentioned her yard. She mentioned, we're all mentioning these things. And to break it down for everybody is simply put, do I have a health risk, a contamination problem on my property, in my neighborhood? How far does it expand out? Does it reach here all the way to Pebble? Does it reach to the buoy? Am I a concerned citizen? Have my children been affected? Have my mother been affected? Tell us, y'all got a problem. And here's the solution. We've identified the problem. Now here's the solution. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. And this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I wanna know.
Sure. I'll take this one as well. So yeah, one of the things, and I think Kevin touched on this earlier, one of the things that we will be doing, again, I hate to say the word investigation again, but one of the things that we're going to be doing in this process is we are going to find where the contamination went, not just stopping at the fence line. If contamination has gone off-site, we are going to find it, and if it needs to be cleaned up, we are going to clean it up. So I hear you that you don't necessarily have that answer right now, but that is the goal of this process right now.
Just my final. Do you think it takes 10 years or 12? Or do you think it takes 5? Or do you think it takes 25? Or do you think it takes 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months or 10 years or 50 years? Can you assess me on?
So like Deidre mentioned on the slides earlier, for this investigation process, which will involve getting outside the boundaries of the site property, which will involve getting into the neighborhoods, that investigation process, 2 to 5 years is the estimate for making sure that we know where everything is. And just one thing that I want to add. So as a part of that, one thing that we are going to need help from the community is if we need to sample properties, you'll probably have a conversation with me because I'll want you to sign an access authorization, and that will help smooth the process for us being able to come to your property. If it looks like contamination has moved in that way, we're going to want to take a look. And so I will probably ask you, can we come to your property and take samples? And so just be on the lookout for those communications as we move forward.
Is there a possibility for a bifold, trifold? What I hear you telling me is right over here to the left. I'm talking about the left, the right, the middle, the center. It's like we're gonna get over here, but when we get over here, we'll get over here. Why can't there be a trifold? I just heard you say we're gonna take these areas and we're gonna soil samples. We don't need to wait on the soils. We need the action now, today, not next year, not 2 years. We need trifold, Hercules testing, Bowie Street, whatever, Scott Street, somebody said over here, whatever, trifold. Can we have trifold, quadruple?
I'm going to pass that to Deidre because that's a Deidre.
So we have a meeting on Tuesday at 11 a.m. with Hercules, EPA, and MDEQ, and we're going to discuss the future plans for where we're going to investigate and see if there is an issue in your neighborhood. One of the first places, or there isn't. Yes, we're going to determine. So what some of the first places we're going to sample are, where they're close to neighborhoods. The southeast side and the northwest side where the sludge pits are, those would be some of the first places that we go and look at. And I know that you're all really frustrated, and I hate that, but yeah, and that is one of the key factors is if you could give us your address and if you have any concerns, because we are collecting them, and that'll be a priority. So these are things we're going to focus on going forward. And Graham's absolutely right. We are going to need access to your properties to test. And so and the access agreements they don't say anything except, you're gonna let us come on your property and drill a well or take soil samples. So.
If you have, okay, one more. The gentleman in the blue cap.
For the sake of transparency and accountability is what I'm hearing. The young lady over there spoke basically about accountability. I think everybody in here wants to know exactly what's going on. And so in the sake of those two things, transparency and accountability, I think what would help the whole community is when you guys coordinate with each other, the community would like to see a written plan of action. Informing the community, here's our plan of action. And it may not be very detailed, but some kind of framework from which you're going to work from. And then along in that 2 to 5 years, have some benchmarks. Here's what we plan to accomplish by. Disseminate that to the community every 6 months, every quarter, whatever you decide. But there needs to be some accountability, and how you hold people accountable is you say what you're going to do at this time or by this time. And if that's done, good, check. If it's not, then we know where we are and we know what needs to be done. But it's about keeping the community informed. And that's where the frustration comes from. All these people have been talking about decades, years, when are we going to start? I'm asking right now, where are we in the 2 to 5 years? Are we at the starting line? Or are we already a year in? Nobody knows. So how about do the coordination, get a plan of action, establish benchmarks in that plan of action. You won't be able to hang all the meat on it, but that'll develop as time goes, but you will have some information. Establish the benchmarks, keep the community informed, what has been accomplished at this time, and are we on track? Are we on target? And I think if we do that, then even when we come to these meetings, you eliminate a lot of questions because they would have already been answered, and because you have been keeping people informed all along the way. Listening to these people, I haven't lived on this side of town all my life, like some of these folks, but I have been in Hattiesburg all my life. And I know this is at least 20 years old. And what we're hearing is we haven't started yet. At least that's what I hear. And all this information, well, we really hadn't gotten started yet. These people did this, these people did that. But now we're at the Superfund. So
Yay for Superfund.
yay. So are we at the starting line now again? And if we are, let's say, okay, we are. All this stuff was done in the past. Here's where we are now. Here's the framework. Here's our plan of action. Here's our benchmarks. Ready, set, go. And then keep the community informed.
So you'll be happy. Your action plan is what we call a work plan. And that is what we're going to meet on Tuesday. MDEQ, EPA, and Hercules. And that's what we're going to talk about. What it's called is a scoping meeting. And that's nothing more than what we plan to do. And then we ask Hercules to submit a work plan or your action plan. And it does have dates in that work plan. And so the work plan, like I said, two of the first things we're going to look at are your communities, the Southeast and the Northwest.
And then my role picks up really in terms of keeping you informed. So I've been trying for the last almost a year, maybe for every month, every 6 weeks to send some kind of information to you, either through email or through postal mail. And so keeping you informed of where they are in that work plan will be what I share with you. Because yes, we want to be transparent and we do want you to know, because we do understand, we hear your frustration. And so
And
we do want to keep in touch.
And it's completely justified. I mean, I get it. And we are moving. I want you to know we are making movement, and, you know, we had to have an order signed with Hercules before we could do anything. And so we got an order signed in November, and then in December. Another thing EPA did was we had something called a special listing. We had a special listing to list Hercules and another site, some sites that warranted and needed attention. So we have done some things like that. And we've tried every 4 to 6 weeks to update the website, let you know what we're doing. And I think there are 7 or 8 of those on the website, and we're going to continue to have those updates. Like when we get done with the scoping meeting, I'm hoping to, they'll have to go back, they have to hire contractors, and they have to have a work plan. And so, you know, but you're getting to the good stuff now, where we can actually get out there and figure. And if we do find a problem, then we'll figure out how to address it. And Hercules can call fast acting contractors. And then if Hercules can't do it, EPA can step in and do it. So as soon as we find out, we'll let you know, and we will keep you in the loop. And I completely understand your frustration, and I'm sorry y'all had to go through this.
One other thing that would help too, when you come to these meetings, if you can prepare some visuals, maybe before the meeting, if people will come in early, they can, you know, see some visuals or whatever, that would help. Some people won't go to the website. Some people don't know how. Some people will miss it or whatever. But if preparing for this meeting, if you had some visuals, that would help a lot.
Hercules has some in the back there.
Hercules brought some, but you know what? As we get further down the road and there's more, we collect data and progress. We will bring some visuals. We can ask Hercules to make up specific visuals. And here's something, y'all think about it and see what you would like to see. And if you'll, you know, shoot me an email, my email's up there. You can call me. I would love to speak with all of you and get to know you. I really do mean it. Call me. I mean, maybe not at 2 a.m., but please do call me.
Thank you for your feedback and your suggestions too. And those are good ones. At this point, I would like to say again, you know, here's our contact information. If you still have questions and concerns, please email Deidre or me. Please call Deidre or me. If we don't know the answers, we'll get you the answers, or to the best of our abilities, we'll get you what we can. So for the open house, at the different tables, there is a table for community involvement, and that's going to be staffed by EPA and MDEQ. There is a table for Hercules Inc. or Hercules LLC. There is a table for EPA technical experts. And then there is a table for ATSDR, EPA, risk assessor, and the Mississippi Department of Health for your health concerns. So feel free to come back to those tables where you can discuss with us one-on-one your concerns. We're here for you. Yes.
Yes.
So the sign-in sheet is with the lovely Miss Angela at the back. Angela, if you'll raise your hand. Angela's with EPA. If you didn't sign in, please do. Again, that's how I will communicate with you, either by
He's talking about concerns, specific
see
concerns.
Angela. Yep. And if you are interested in participating in a community interview with me, that sign up is at the community involvement table.
And please do continue to share your concerns, because we really do collect the information and we do act on it.
If you're leaving now, I just want to say thank you for being here. We appreciate your time.